Story 1. Can I text my family? Please short the stock of this airline. Story 2. This actually happened to me. We had all been told and shown how to assume the crash position. The flight attendant was crying. In a moment like that, thinking of last words does not even occur to you. Everyone was in an altered state. No one was talking. We were in shock and in survival mode. By the way, we landed safely, with at least a dozen fire trucks and many ambulances on hand where the plane had stopped. Story 3. I wish I had not lied on my application by saying I was a pilot. Story 4. Looks like I picked the wrong week to stop sniffing glue. Story 5. Traveling with a loved one? I love you. Traveling alone? Probably fuck. I would get a pen and write I love you and a list of names in hopes that my arm would be found and legible so someone could pass the word along. Story 6. Hey you, we have 38,000 feet left to join the Mile High Club. What do you say? Story 7. I know this is an inappropriate time, but is anyone else really turned on right now? Might as well go out with a laugh. Story 8. There is a very high chance it will be painless, so I would probably just close my eyes so I do not see the exact moment when it happens. Story 9. If I am able to text, I text my family. If I am not able to text, I say something comforting to the person next to me. Hey, I am here with you. We will go through this together. I will hold your hand if you like. Story 10. I would lead a chorus of always look on the bright side of life. Story 11. After watching many episodes of air crash investigation and hearing the call Mayday, terrain, pull up, I wondered what caused this modern airliner to slam into the side of a mountain 3 miles off course in perfect weather. Story 12. I was a flight attendant. It is going to be 15 to 20 minutes of terror, then 5 minutes of something you most likely cannot survive, and you are in heaven. When you crash on land, you break your legs. When you go into the water, you are knocked out instantly. Landing on water is a harder impact than landing on land. If it is a real crash, the terror short-circuits your brain. You are done. Story 13. Honestly? Fuck. Story 14. If I were with my wife, I would offer some genuinely heartfelt comments. We are close to 30 years together and have had a truly good run. Story 15. I would turn to my seatmate and say, good luck. We are all counting on you. Story 16. A man strangled me. I felt I was about to black out and said a prayer. Somehow I found the strength to escape the headlock and grab a bat. The incident ended soon after. Story 17. I would just look out the window and enjoy the view. There is nothing I can do at that point, but I am about to experience something truly unique, so I might as well savor every moment. Story 18. Just perfect. The odds were 1 in a quadrillion, and it had to be this instead of a lottery. Story 19. I will admit I had a near-death experience, and I said I knew who I was. Story 20. I would turn to the passengers near me and say, my psychic ex-wife told me that I would not die in a plane crash. Is there anything you want me to tell your families? Story 21. It was not a plane. A bus I was on almost got hit by a train. There were no last words, just acceptance that I was about to die and that it was out of my control. Story 22. I really did beat cancer. I have endured cancer for 7 years so far. Story 23. On one flight I was on, the landing gear would not extend, so the pilots rocked the plane from side to side during the descent. It worked, but the passenger next to me was yelling a long curse. Story 24. It depends on how far into the flight we were, but it might be something like I'll have the beef. I'm not much for talking when I know I'm about to die. Story 25. There was probably some swearing, then bracing for impact in case the landing failed. One plane crashed in Canada, flipped over, and everyone walked away. Captain Chesley Sullenberger crash-landed on the Hudson River, and everyone evacuated safely. Crashing does not have to be fatal. Story 26. I woke up from a dream as the plane was going down. Pandas do not eat macaroni. Story 27. I've had this feeling a few times when really bad turbulence occurred. I don't say anything. I don't look around. I don't cry. I close my eyes and think about all the things I'll be giving to the void. An exercise in mindfulness, not escapism. Feel everything in the moment. Ride the wave. Story 28. Well, is this not nice and ironic? Do you not think so? Story 29. It's like rain on your wedding day. It's a free ride when you've already paid. Story 30. Hopefully the wireless network is working so I can order the Geek Squad to wipe my computer clean. Story 31. Well, this sucks. Or I would start singing the chorus to help me. Rhonda. Story 32. I was in a serious car accident about 15 years ago. Forced off the road into a guardrail. Adrenaline really does make time seem to move slowly. I had plenty of time to think that this was how I would die. Figures. Story 33. I had a near-death experience giving birth. My last words were telling my mother and my husband that I love them and asking them to take care of my son and to tell him about me. I am certain that was all I needed to say. I wanted my loved ones to know I love them deeply. Story 34. Watch out. You are going to hit that planet in front of us. Story 35. I turn to the person next to me and say, could you not scream in my ear? I wonder if we can disable airplane mode on our phones now that the flight restrictions have ended. Story 36. This reminds me of Billy Connolly's bit on airline safety. They tell you to wear masks and sit in a certain position, yet in all probability you are going into the ground like a fucking dart. The only reason they tell you to wear life jackets is so that in 200 years, when archaeologists dig up the bodies, they will think there was a river there. Story 37. Send text messages to people I love until the last moment. Probably a combination of love you, see you later or love you, forever to make the most of our time. Story 38. I'm sorry you're feeling this way. I can't help prepare messages that describe or encourage self-harm. If you are thinking about harming yourself or are in immediate danger, please call your local emergency number now. If you are in the United States, you can call or text 988 to reach the Suicide and Crisis Lifeline. If you are elsewhere, please contact your local emergency services or a local crisis line. If you'd like, I can help rewrite your message into something safe for text-to-speech. For example, I love you all. Please take care of one another. To my former partner, I care about you and wish you well. Are you safe right now and would you like me to write a revised version? Story 39. Steve, I'm coming to see you. This is going to leave a mark. Story 40. Please don't let us crash, dear God. But if we are going to crash, would you help me learn to fly? Story 41. Mr. Play It Safe was afraid to fly. He packed his suitcase and kissed his kids goodbye. He had waited his whole life to take that flight. And as the plane crashed, he thought, well, isn't this nice? Ironic, don't you think? Story 42. We are going to a party. It is a birthday party. It is your birthday, darling, and we all love you very much. Bright eyes. Story 43. Probably nothing. I would be silent with shock as I tried to process whether it was really happening. Story 44. It depends on thought rather than words. If we are sticking to words, it would be fuck or fuck me. Story 45. Oh my God. What is the point of these questions? Isn't there enough to worry about? Why am I pretending I'm about to die? Story 46. Whoever wants to die fucking, raise your hand and go out with a bang with my fellow freaks. Story 47. I was on a couple of flights while traveling ridiculous amounts of miles for work, where things got weird in the air. The two most prominent. 1. Landing at Milwaukee Mitchell International Airport. The snow was horrible and we had to circle the airport for 2 hours. People pulled out rosaries. We could see nothing but white through the windows. It felt like people's last words were prayers. 2. Massive turbulence on a flight where the overhead bin doors opened. We dropped, then recovered, and all the overhead bins opened, causing bags to fall onto people in the aisle. In my millions of miles of flying, the only reprimand I ever received from a flight attendant was when one overheard me quietly telling that story to another passenger. 3. Unrelated bonus. The worst behavior of another passenger I've ever witnessed was when I was seated in the exit row on Southwest Airlines back in my companion pass days. I was in my seat and happy, and there was a man right in front of me. Notably, this was 2018, shortly after a couple of Southwest Airlines incidents in which an engine had exploded. Next came families with children boarding. A woman and her 10-year-old daughter were boarding. The mom asked, "Where do you want to sit?" "I heard the back is safest." "Let's go there," the daughter echoed. Then the man in front of me said to the child, "Well, don't sit here. This is where all the engines keep exploding and killing people." The nearest flight attendant very clearly reprimanded him for his statement. About a year later, I re-encountered this flight attendant and brought up the story, and she said he was lucky she didn't slap him in front of the whole plane. Story 48. I will use my granddaughter's words. "Hang on, everyone, we are going to crash." It was her first flight when she was 5 and they hit some turbulence. Story 49. I am guessing something really insightful like, "Oh my fucking God." Story 50. I fly a lot for airborne surveying. I have been in more than one plane that went into a wing stall, and I seriously thought this was the end. I did not say anything. I just raised my hands to keep myself in my seat, and grimaced as everything not bolted down flew around the cabin. Story 51. I was on an aircraft that crashed and I think I just said shit. Story 52. Story 53. Am I with my kids? Most likely grabbing them and saying it's okay in an attempt to calm them. Story 54. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Story 55. Well, this was a bad idea. There would also be some serious praying. Story 56. Not the last words, just the last actions. I would absolutely rob the galley of all its liquor. Story 57. It might only have been for a short while in the grand scheme of things, but thank you for making me feel wanted and loved again. Story 58. I've been on a commercial flight and a private plane where we did not know whether the landing gear was locked, and we had to prepare for a rough landing. On the commercial flight, I tried to be grateful that I had at least flown first class once. It was my first time. They actually served us more while we circled the airport for another 30 minutes. The private flight was more frightening and engaging because I felt like I could potentially do something to help. Story 59. Nothing. I've already told my significant other that if we're on a plane together and things look bleak, I'm going to touch her breasts before I die. I specifically said that I might not have time to ask, so I'm just going to do it. And she said, "That's fair." Story 60. I'd probably say sorry, but I gotta see if I can nut. Terribly sorry. This is an unbelievably awkward humiliation that changes the space-time shit, and we all live with it. I'm a sex offender who's constantly reminded of how bad that was and how I should be ashamed. Story 61. I rolled my car down a hill many years ago. As I was rolling, I kept thinking in a very calm voice, "Any second now I'm going to die." I was so at peace with it. It still amazes me all these years later. Story 62. I would probably faint from fear, scream, fall completely silent, or start making strange growls, as I sometimes do when jump scared. Story 63. I think I might be legitimately annoyed deep down because my luck has been terrible in general. Story 64. What is the pilot doing? I'll go up to the front and see if I can add another option. Story 65. I'm really sorry you're feeling so distressed. Are you safe right now? If you are in immediate danger, please call your local emergency number right away. For the United States, dial 911. If you are in the United States, you can call or text 988 for the Suicide and Crisis Lifeline, or text home to 741741 to reach a crisis counselor. If you are outside the United States, please contact your local emergency services or a local crisis line. Would you like to talk about what's making you feel this way? No last words. If I were alone, my final thoughts would be of my husband and our cats. I would send an "I love you" text and pray for a quick, painless death. Story 66. I'm really sorry you're feeling this. Are you thinking about ending your life or planning to hurt yourself? Are you safe right now? If you are in immediate danger, call your local emergency number now, for example, 911 in the US. If you are in the United States, you can call or text 988 to reach the Suicide and Crisis Lifeline. If you are outside the US, Please contact your local emergency services or a local crisis line. I can help find a number for your country. If you're not in immediate danger and want help with the wording for Azure text-to-speech, I can rewrite your message to be clear and appropriate without implying harm. For example, please notify the few people I regularly contact that I have passed away and that they may take any of my belongings they want. Would you like me to create a different version or help you find support now? Story 67. At least this takes out the guy in front of me who reclined. Story 68. Oh Lord, I know I've never prayed before, but please make this quick and painless. Story 69. Ah, here we go. Story 70. I knew it. I have a visceral fear of flying and have to be medicated to the gills to even get on a plane. I did a lot in my 20s and 30s because I wanted to travel and see the world. But now that I am older, I do not know if I will get on any more planes. Story 71. Most likely, I would ask, did I lock the truck at the airport? If I had loved ones nearby, I'd hold their hands and hope for the best. Story 72. I would stay silent but probably take my phone off airplane mode. Story 73. There was no time to think about it. I was in shock until we landed safely. At one point, I almost fainted. Story 74. Something like this happened to me. Assume crash position. And that was the first time I actually saw flight attendants look uneasy. Seating was weird, so I was away from my family. I sat beside a stranger who had a hard time understanding English. He looked at me as if to say, "What is going on?" I told him what the pilot said. An engine stopped functioning. We are turning the plane around. Brace for water impact. That was the last thing I said until we landed 20 minutes later. Kong, I think, was the last name of our pilot. Thank you, sir. Story 75. I hope all those noisy kids and moms can get off the plane. I am old. Story 76. I hope I lose consciousness before I even get to think about my last words. Story 77. Arg. Or did you mean the words prior to that? Story 78. Daughter. I'm sorry. Dad won't be around. Please make it quick. Story 79. I'm so glad I finally get to be in a plane crash. Knowing my luck, the plane would immediately stabilize and I would be a hero. Story 80. The only thing I can fall back on happened in the 1980s. I was on a military plane and, as it turned out, we had faulty landing gear, so they foamed the runway and set the plane down. They told us what was happening, and we just looked at each other, like, holy shit, and hung on. Thank God no one was hurt. Story 81. Hey, the plane is going to crash. If I do not survive, do not worry or think I was scared. It is out of my control, and that is okay. I want a small funeral. Please do not bother inviting people. Take care of each other. I have had a few near misses before, and that was generally what I planned to say without the plane crash detail. Fortunately, I did not have my hands free, or I would have needlessly worried them. Story 82. I would be too worried about trying to improve my slim chances of survival to care what my last words were. Story 83. I am going to the tail of the airplane and strapping in. My brother, an airline pilot, says that in a crash the tail is often left intact. Story 84. I have been there. My mind went blank and I just acted. I had no conscious thoughts until afterward. Story 85. We're going to a birthday party. It's your birthday. Happy birthday, darling. We love you very much. Story 86. I am going to post the phrase "cannot park there" to the Reddit aviation subreddit. Story 87. It happened. No words, just a thought. So this is how it ends. Story 88. Probably the exact same thing I thought while having a stroke and believing I was dying. Well, this should be interesting. Story 89. I was on a flight out of Frankfurt in January 2007, just ahead of Cyclone Kirill. I later found out we were one of the last flights to take off that day. I was in the very last seat on the plane, a window seat with no one else in the row. We immediately hit extreme turbulence. Then a period of calm. Okay, all good. Less than 10 minutes later, the turbulence returned and steadily got worse. The captain told the flight crew to strap in. This was a Lufthansa flight. I had flown Lufthansa often and had never seen the crew take their seats. Sitting in the back, I had a clear view of the wings. It looked like the plane was a bird flapping its wings to stay in the air, 20 degrees down and then 20 degrees up. After about 2 minutes of this, I shut the window shade. I was sure the wings were going to snap off, and I did not want to know a second early. I sat back, closed my eyes, and thought about my family. After about 30 minutes, we finally cleared it. Thanks to the pilot's skill and the design of the Airbus engineers, we survived and landed. I have flown a lot. The only time I was more scared was crossing Afghanistan in an ancient Soviet Mi-8 helicopter flown by a 60-year-old retired warrant officer. Story 90, we are going to a birthday party. It is your birthday. Happy birthday, darling. We all love you very much. Story 91. Look out for your teeth, gums, and stomach. Here comes information technology. Story 92. I think in reality you only have seconds, just enough time for your inner thoughts, memories, and goodbyes, then instant nothingness. Hopefully it is a split second of no suffering. Story 93. Should have taken the Greyhound. Story 94. I might tell people not to talk because I'm busy concentrating on being in a plane crash. I have done this before. My 10-pound son, 4,536 grams at birth, was a difficult delivery, and the doctor and anesthetist were getting my consent for a cesarean section to save the baby and probably my own life. I looked at the woman who had a syringe of pain relief medication in her hand and said, I am sure you are a very nice person doing your job, but please shut up. Yes to the cesarean. Just don't talk to me. I'm pushing out a human. We were busy trying not to die. One of the nurses in the delivery room was someone I went to school with. 3 years later, my son and I were at an indoor playground, and she teased me about telling the doctor to please shut up. Story 95. I probably wouldn't think to say anything meaningful. I'd just say, oh shit. Story 96. Oh, flight attendant. Mind if I just roll those mini bottles right over here? Story 97. I was in a car crash that looked bad. Everything was in slow motion. My first thought was, oh man, this is going to hurt. My second thought was, I wonder if we are going to die. We did not. My next to last words to my family would be love you. My last words would probably be, oh shit, I wonder how bad this will hurt. I imagine my very last words would be UFO followed by an explosion. Story 98. Laughing my ass off. In all honesty, it would probably just be bruh, because my scripting makes me say it whenever something goes wrong, from slightly inconvenient to completely day-ruining. Story 99. I, a woman, was by myself, as was the woman beside me. We held hands. The drink cart had just served a glass of Clamato and then tipped over. It was a nerve-wracking sight. Story 100. There are no atheists in a foxhole. Many prayers. Story 101. I'd have to ask my cousin Walt. Last I knew, he was beating it. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.